I am Edwin Petan. I'm coming from Nakonyo village. I'm working as a tour guide. In 1984, the Mulanje Mountain was covered with lots of trees along the riverbank. So the scenery was totally beautiful. Now, not like where it was before.
Are you worried that the younger generation might not be able to see these trees here?
Yeah, we do worry this if they destroyed all away, the young ones, they might never see them. So I love the mountain to be conserving.
So these are the facts. My name is Majka Burhardt. I am not from Mozambique. I don't speak Portuguese. I was born in Minnesota. I own a poodle. His name is Ptarmigan. I'm a professional rock climber. I was never certified to dream up the story I'm about to tell you. As all climbers are wont to do, I fell in love with a mountain range. A scruffy one, vegetated, remote, hard to get to, potentially scary to climb. This chain of mountains, or Inselbergs, stretches 900 miles across 4 countries in Southeast Africa, about as far away from my home as you can get. It encompasses places like Mulanje, where Edwin works, and further to the east, the site of my particular love interest, Mount Namuli.
Inselbergs are like islands, but on land.
I think Inselbergs are kind of like islands in the sky.
There are rocky peaks going up to 10,000 feet.
You have islands with endemic species. You will find also endemic species, most likely on mountains, because the animals are isolated.
It's a lot of bracken-covered grassy hillsides with trees in the stream valleys. And there are many microhabitats within the plateau, which could house all sorts of insects which we know nothing about.
We can only conserve for what we know. So if we don't know, then there's no conservation. So the first part is finding what is there.
This is one of those trips where there's climbing and there's science, and we're trying to figure out a way that they actually are a good combination.
To me, Mount Namuli started as something to climb. What I discovered is that it mattered, not just to me, but to science, to the greater ecosystem, to the people of Mozambique, who are committed to making the country more prosperous, and most importantly, to the people who call it home. I realized I had a unique perspective as an outsider. I could bring all the pieces together. If this expedition doesn't work, the science, climbing, conservation, community building, none of it works. We have 23 days. There's a lot to do. There's a 2,000-foot cliff to be climbed, and more insects and reptiles than I generally want to think about that need to be identified. But this mountain is more than rocks and critters. Namuli is the ancestral homeland of the Lomwe people. They speak a traditional language, not the Portuguese that dominates the rest of Mozambique. And to the Lomwe, Namuli is the place where humankind began. A local priest shared with me, to return to Namuli means to die, but is also a return to the cradle, where the umbilical cord of the world is found, and thus to be reborn. I care about this mountain, but to the people who live here, Namuli is their past, present, and future. Nothing happens without the Lomwe people.
The people in Namuli, they've been living for quite a long time. So what we actually see is like the people, they don't live in a group or a village. They're scattered. And the landscape there, they use the land as to make their small field for agriculture. And also that area is very beautiful because you see the green part of it. You know, the forest is there. I mean, the setup is so wonderful in that area. So this is what we are going to find out and to see, is there any pressure they make to the natural resource in the area? Are they damage it? How they damage? Why they damage it? So that we come out with the recommendations, we come out with some kind of training, capacitating them in terms of trying to see the environment so that the future generation will gain from it. What causes the burning, for example, of the trees in the area? Why are they burning? Do they know what is the consequence of burning the forest? And then we're trying to see solutions of not burning the forest so that everyone will know that the importance of having the trees growing in that side. So this is basically what we are doing. We are going to do with the community in Namuli.
Our science team is staggeringly energetic. They're the people who I wish I learned science from when I was growing up.
My name is Flavia Esteves. I'm originally from Brazil, but currently I live in California studying ants. Ants are wonderful. They are diverse in shape, so you can find many different shapes in ants. I'm here with two colleagues.
My name is Caswell Munyai. So I was born in a rural area of Limpopo province. I am coming from South Africa. At Mount Namuli is that when we are there and we collect as much as ants as we can, get as much rare ants as possible, as well as getting like the representative of all the ants of the Mount Namuli.
My name is Harith Farooq. I'm an herpetologist. I work for a public university in Mozambique. Because Namuli has been so poorly documented, my first goal is to document what I can see, what I can find in this expedition. And my second goal is obviously to find something that nobody has ever found.
It's about bringing scientists to Mount Namuli and letting them go wild and having access to any part of the mountain region that they want to sample, including that face.
There is a big problem in science, especially in inventory of different animals in Africa. There is lack of inventory done. There's a big need to know what is up here in this mountain as well.
Mike and Kate are recognizing the west face to find a good place to open a via so they can bring us up in the granite face to look for ants.
The Eucalyptus forest is the last remaining rainforest on Mount Namuli, and it's kind of this hanging, beautiful rainforest that sits above the village of Rere. It's the only thing like that on Namuli, and it's being heavily logged right now and used for its wood by the people who live here.
I study ants and did my PhD in entomology in Brazil. Now I am a postdoc at California Academy of Sciences and in San Francisco. Mainly, I like them because they are very important. They are everywhere in the forest. Here you can find ants in the canopy, in the low vegetation, foraging on the soil and inside the soil. And in these micro habitats, they have ecological relationships with everything. with plants, they cycle the nutrients of the soil. So if you want to understand what's going on in the forest, it's easier if you look at the ants instead of look at birds, for example. Ants, since they very short lifespan, if something happens in an ecosystem, you can measure that faster because the next generation will be here soon.
Namuli is a place that's hard to get to. That means that almost nobody came here to document biodiversity. And in Mozambique, there are no herpetologists. So no Mozambican herpetologist has ever been in this mount. In Mozambique, people don't care for biodiversity. They see animals as food sources. They see animals as income. They see animals as pests. They don't give them their real value. Mozambique is doing little to protect areas like this. For South Africa, the United States, Switzerland, for England, and they come from all those countries because they are worried about our country, about our biodiversity. And as Mozambicans, what are we doing? Not much. So this area without the trees will make the streams dry. If the streams get dry, the water will not get to the bottom of the mount where people live. And this is like a cascade effect. If the streams dry, all the animals surrounding the streams will also die. And some people down in the mountain, they use these animals as food sources. So just by cutting the trees, they will lose the animals, they will lose the water to drink, they will lose all these advantages that people take from nature. And this is the real value of biodiversity. If you don't protect it, people will destroy it, and then they will only feel the effects later, and then when it's too late to save it. This impact that these people are making, it's something that they need to do to survive. So before we start criticizing, we first have to understand their needs.
What we are trying to accomplish in this whole project is to come up with a general overview of what Namuli has in terms of biodiversity, in terms of the use of natural resources, so that on the second phase we see what can be done in terms of pulling up, the situation right now at Namuli.
As a climber, the scientist's obsessive focus feels so familiar. A quick walk in the foothills with Flavia can turn into hours of collecting. It's the same drive that keeps Kate and me glued to our binoculars, trying to unlock the puzzle of how to climb this massive rock face. Everyone believes in the importance of this place, but it's a matter of somehow getting people to agree on how to conserve an ecosystem that must support humans as well as plants and animals. We can't just wrap a fence around it. I don't have the answers, but I keep thinking, if we do a little more, if we push a little harder, if I can just harness all the knowledge and passion around me, maybe our work can at least open the door for the people who live here so they can find the solution. The day has arrived. We've scoped our line, trained the scientists as best we can. It is time to go up Mount Namuli. Kate and I will push the line up the wall and bring the scientists up behind us.
You can't go down, you can only go up. Up, stand, flew up.
Go ahead, Majka, over.
Yeah, the hope is today that we'll find some frogs and ants and snakes and who knows what else up in this pocket forest that's pretty high on Mount Namuli.
here we are, really high, trying to get to these cracks on the rock. You know, reptiles, they like to come in the morning to bask in the sun.
And if you see a snake and you're like going after it, let me know. So if I have to like, you know, if something happens, if you get bitten, I can try and help you.
It's a shame that it's not sunny anymore, so they might not be basking, so they might be hiding already in the cracks. But I'm curious to see what we can find. You know, for many people, not having arms and legs is a disability. But we cannot forget that for snakes evolved from lizards. So it was actually an evolution to lose arms and legs. They can fit everywhere.
When we were at the bottom, we showed everybody what was going to happen, and then I said, "Who wants to go first?" And Flavia held up both of her Jumars like this and said, "Me, me, me." She was ready to go. So I think we have our ringer climber scientist already, and I think she's probably already at the top of the forest, hopefully having found 17 different types of ants by now, because she's had a head start on it.
Oh, larvae.
What do you think the white stuff is? You want to blow it into the tube or just...
Yeah, blow it.
Wow. They're hard to catch without them.
Ooh, and larvae, here. The chimney-like crack systems with all the sedge and moss, all of the pockets of habitat on the cliff face we worked so hard to get to, it was a trove for the scientists.
Good job. Really good job, Flavia. I'm super proud of you.
But that big find, the one we hoped would put Namuli at the center of conservation, didn't happen. Then again, that's the thing about discoveries. They don't always happen where you expect them.
I've never filmed a sandwich bag with such excitement.
Do you want me to open the sandwich bag for you?
Well, it was our rest day, and we decided, it's good to clean out the kitchen, work out our food for the next couple of days. You know, we found some old leftover bits of food, and then all of a sudden we found this guy. Well, Kate found this guy.
And I sort of thought it was a snake, like it's big enough to freak me out a little bit and say, "Ooh, ick!" But it doesn't really have scales like I think snakes do. And so then we thought it was a worm, but then it was so big that we decided to collect it for Harith.
So this is a Sicilian. So this is an order of amphibian called Apuda. Apuda means no legs. This is an amphibian. This is the first record of a Sicilian in central Mozambique. Not family, not genus, not species, order.
The irony isn't lost on us. We traveled halfway around the world, certain we'd find a breakthrough discovery high on a mountain, only to find it while cleaning up our cook tent in base camp. Our time here is up. What all of us are trying to create, from Geraldo to Flavia to Kate, is a simple thing made from a bizarre combination of ingredients: science, adventure, conservation, and community building. It feels like a relief. We have found so much, but the Sicilian may be the tiny discovery that galvanizes the scientific community around Namuli. The work is far from done, but it's time to celebrate this small first step.
Mountain Namuli is such a living, breathing organism that doesn't have a beginning and a middle and an end. And this project is just a glimpse of how we interact with this place.
My hope in this project, according to what we see the forest is now, my hope is to continue conserving that area so that future generations, they'll be using that Mount Namuli as an example. So my hope is to continuing, treating that area as it is like today.
It can be easy to let where we come from or the roles we use to define ourselves dictate our actions. Like I said, I grew up in Minnesota. I'm a rock climber. At a quick glance, it's pretty obvious I have no business involving myself in the future of a place like Mount Namuli. And to the people living beneath this mountain, the ants and frogs and the strange little Sicilian, they pale in importance to the need for sustainable agriculture, for a road, for medical care. But when we look a little longer, we begin to see there are connections between all of these interests. I think of the words of the Lomwe people. Namuli is where the umbilical cord of the world is found, the place where humans and creatures alike are born. I think about Edwin, on a mountain 100 miles to the west of us, tending to his home, to his community, to his seedlings. We are tethered to the mountains, all of us. The beauty, chaos, and wonder of the past 23 days taught me this. We all have a stake when we're tethered to the same thing.
Yeah, so yesterday we went rock climbing and it was awesome. It was awesome. I really enjoyed it.